Arizona football has a loaded running back room. What exactly does that mean? Plus, there's a big commitment on the U of A basketball front.
You are Locked On Wildcats, your daily podcast on the Arizona Wildcats. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
Thanks for giving it a Locked On Wildcats and making this your first listen of the day. I am your host, Mike Luke. All right, a Locked On your team every day. We're going to talk about a loaded Arizona running back room. We are going to talk about U of A basketball recruit C.D. Gay. But guess what? We're going to talk about C.D. first because this is just breaking across the wires. This was something new. And so we got a lot to get to on this show. So let's talk about it. But first, Arizona basketball gets C.D. Gay. He is on campus. He is in here, and he is making his feelings felt. How about that one? The thing that I look at though when I watch him is that he's a monster of a guy. He's 6'10", 6'11" without shoes on, which is something to definitely keep in mind. Without shoes on. And he's got a lot of skill. You watch him for 5 minutes and you're like, man, there's a lot to like about him. And the way he moves up and down the court, the way that he does pretty much everything is second to none. Now, the big thing is you want him here to be here during basketball season. Obviously, that would be a big part of that. He's going to be here, and I think there was some concern that he might get here before, like midway through or something. You didn't want any of that. You wanted him on campus, ready to play, ready to start mixing it up with the old folks and stuff. And he's going to do that. But when you watch him on the court, there's a lot to like. He's not going to be he's not going to be somebody that you look at and you're going to be like, okay, well, he's just going to dominate. He's just going to dominate games here and there and do a bunch of different things. That's not what he's going to be. What he's going to be, though, a little bit later on is he's going to be the guy who you look at him and you're like, okay, when did this guy just become a lottery pick? And that's, I think, probably where we're about to be at that point. I think that's honestly, I think that's just kind of where it is at this stage. So that is the big thing. But you watch him though; he's second to none. He's a really, really good. He's a really, really good player, and I think that's something that you got to like about him. Also, you look at him, and he is a monster of a person. You know, there's a lot of times that you look at people, and you're like, they're not really as tall as they're listed or whatever the case may be. He is very, very tall. He is every bit as tall as he is listed, and he moves incredibly well. He moves very, very well for a man of that size. What his role is going to be this year, I think it's going to be an interesting role. I think he's going to play a little bit. I really do. I watch him, and I think this is a player that is going to, like I said, I think he's going to force his way onto the court to a certain degree. And when he gets his way onto the court to a certain degree, he's going to basically take it from there. And I don't think he's ever going to relinquish it. I do believe he'll be a starter by the time he's a sophomore. And I believe that he could have probably started this year on a good team had he needed to. Now, maybe he didn't. Arizona clearly didn't need him to do that. So I could absolutely see that. But we're kind of, like I said, we're kind of at the stage now with him where it's like, all right, you watch him and you just like, all right, what's that next step for you? How can you get there? And getting with Chris Rounds is going to be huge. Chris Rounds is, as everybody knows, Chris Rounds is the man. You watch Chris Rounds for a second and you're like, okay, that guy's a little bit different. The way that he moves around, the way that he, the strength and conditioning, everything he did with Sean Miller, he did here. And under Tommy Lloyd, and he's really, really good at what he does. I think that's something that we need to keep in mind here when we're talking about him. But he is, like I said, he's good. Now the other thing too with CD is, okay, you look at a guy like a Mo Krivas. Mo Krivas isn't exactly the biggest guy or actually the best shot blocker in the world by any means. I think, when you look at Mo, you can kind of tell Mo is going to be more to the ground a little bit. And, that's okay. But Mo is going to be to the ground. I think that's something that we're kind of at the stage now where you're like, all right, well, what is that next one then? And I don't really know the answer to that one, but it's going to be funny to see because he's going to be blocking some shots. You watch CD, you watch him move up and down. The other thing, too, that I think people are going to see is that he's got a little bit of an offensive game to him as well. And I think that's, like I said, that's a part that's, like I said, Arizona could use. Mo Kribis, like I said, not going to be the fastest guy in the world, but you watch him and you're kind of like, all right, well, what could that next move be for him? And I think that next move that you're hoping for is that he can be the Mo can be 11-6, and this guy can be 4-4, something like that. And if that's the case, then you're going to be in really, really good shape. This guy is like I said, this guy is massive. He's an NBA player. And when I say he's an NBA player, I'm not saying that lightly. I'm saying that he is going to play in the league and barring injury. And next year I could see this guy being a 2-and-done. He's got that type of build to him. I could see him being 2-and-done. And then you go, like I said, you go from there. And I think that's pretty much where you go. Okay. Now, the other thing too, watching him though, I think you've also got to factor in a little bit too, and this is something that maybe is a little bit underplayed in all of this. You've also got to think too, what can he be after a year of real training? And the sky is the limit when it comes to that one. I mean, people will see the fluidity that he moves with. A lot of times you see these big men and they don't move with they don't move with real fluidity. They're kind of goofy. There's a little bit of kind of an odd gait in their move. There's not that at all. That's not going to be the case at all. He is like I said, he's fluid. And NBA scouts, they already know who he is. They should know who he is. And like I said, it's going to be a very fun one to watch. He is this is big for the U of A. We're going to talk about him more tomorrow. This is not, I get people that are asking, like, oh, is he like Bill? He's not like Bill. He's a little bit more put together than Bill. He's further along than Bill, but he's also somebody that he's going to get there. And like I said, when he gets there, Arizona's going to be more than in good enough shape. So we shall see. But now everybody is here now. And when I'm saying that, I'm saying game on. I am saying game on to every team in the country. Game freaking on. You bring it. And you'll take your chances from there. And I think that's the part that really, that's really, really exciting about this is where exactly is, how good can this team be? This team can be really, really good. And like I said, when I see this team, I just think to myself that, man, this is going to be Tommy's best team. And we'll find out from there, how this plays out. But, him, Koa, Pete, it's going to be good. It's going to be good. That's really the best way I can put it. And when I watch him move up and down the court, when I watch these guys, he also gives you a little bit of flexibility that you didn't really have before. Because, again, Kribis is kind of slow. He is and, you look at Tobe. I like Tobe a lot, but I think the other thing, too, that you look at and you're like, okay, what is the next one then? With Tobe, what is the, what can be that, that next move for you? And Tobe can't get any bigger. That's the thing that I keep coming up to is that Tobe can't really get that much better. And that's fine. That's fine. It is what it is. But you got CD here. Not only CD here, he's good to go. So like I said, it's a good time to be an Arizona Wildcat fan. I think there were a lot of people that were concerned that they were like, okay, I don't really see this being the situation where, this kid's going to be on campus. He's here. He's going to be good to go. And I think that's the best part about all of this. Now the next thing is when I watch this guy, I'm also thinking to myself, I'm going, okay, what can he do offensively? Right now, he's just going to be basically be a guy that's going to finish at the rim, stuff like that. But again, that's what I'm talking about with the fluidity. You see him and you're just kind of like, all right, that's a little bit different. So we'll see. But either way, Arizona front court is in really, really good shape. And I think that's the best part about all of this is where the front court is and how good that this could be. You've got a shot blocker now. You needed a shot blocker. You needed somebody that could step in here and do that. And he's going to be able to do exactly that. this is, like I said, this is a good thing for the University of Arizona. This is a very, very good thing. All right, now, speaking of things that are also very, very good, let's talk a little bit of Arizona football and a running backs coach that knows what he's doing. But first, Rugiet. Here's the deal, guys. You probably heard of Viagra or Cialis or any of that stuff, and you're like, all right, well, I know people that have used it, and you're like, okay, but you're like, all right, well, I didn't necessarily hear the best things, whatever the case may be. All right, here's what you got here. It's time to get Rugiet ready. Here's the deal. Rugiet Ready is the next gen prescription treatment designed to amplify arousal in the brain and to boost blood flow at the same time. Yeah, the great thing about it too, you look at it and you're like, all right, this is great. If the traditional options haven't worked, this is probably going to be the answer because over 150,000 men have already made the switch. It's completely online as well. You don't have to go in there and have that awkward conversation with anybody. Connects you to a board certified doctor and ships your treatment discreetly to your door. You can even read real-time customer reviews on their site. It's helping, like I said, it's helping a lot of people feel more confident and present in the moment. Head to Rugiet.com/LockedOnCollege and use code LOCKEDON for a college for 15% off. That's RUGIET.com/LockedOnCollege and use promo code LockedOnCollege for 15% off. Check it out. Thanks for keeping it locked on Wildcats and making this your first listen of the day. I am your host, Mike Luke. Okay, now let's talk a little bit about where we are at now with when it comes to Arizona and the running back situation. We've said this a number of times, and I'm going to continue to say this, that as long as Alonzo Carter is here, I do not worry about the running back room. I don't worry about the running back room at all. When I look at the running back room, he's going to have this just fine. There's going to be no problems with the running back room. You look at it this year. I think the one thing that is also always very, very exciting already is you look at somebody, you look at like a Kedrick Reecano. It would not be at all surprising to me if he's off to the NFL after this year. He's big, he's fast, he's physical. He can plow through. He can just do a lot of different things. And he's got kind of an NFL type vibe to him. You watch, there are certain guys that just look a little bit different. He's one of those guys that just looks a little bit different. Then the other thing that I look at when I think about this is where is this going to be when it comes to the where is it going to be when I'm like, what's that next move then for him? Who are they going to bring in? You say Ishmael Mahdi. Ishmael Mahdi is really, really good. Anybody that knows, you look at Texas State the last couple of years, he had 3,000 yards the last 2 years at Texas State. And Texas State was a solid football team. I mean, we know that. But he comes to the U of A, and right now he might be the third string guy because of how good the running back room is. Reecano is going to be the number one guy. Again, he's an NFL talent. NFL talents generally don't sit on the bench at the University of Arizona. That's just not the way that play is generally drawn up. But you watch him and you're just kind of like, okay, cool. But Quincy Craig has also shown out in a big way. Quincy Craig is basically in a spot now where you're like, okay, is he going to be that pass catcher? Is he going to be that guy out of the backfield? Is he going to be the one that's going to be able to make plays here and there? And I think he is. Like I said, I look at him and I'm just kind of like, all right, I think that's going to be Quincy Craig's role for the University of Arizona. And I think that's going to be a good thing for the University of Arizona is what Quincy Craig can bring to the table. Also, he's one of the strongest guys on the team. Alonzo Carter has mentioned that many times about how strong he is, everything that he brings to the table. And with guys like that, you generally don't just say, all right, well, we'll see what we can do with you later. You want to take advantage of what he's got. That's a really, really good running back room. And again, I think Reecano, we're going to find out that Reecano is that he's an NFL type back. I think when you look around the Big 12 and you look around the country, he's what you're supposed to look like. And he was the next top 10 running back out of Ole Miss. And not only was he a top 10 running back out of Ole Miss, he was also somebody that, when he got here, he looked the part, and he looked the part in a big way. And I think that's the part that's kind of exciting about all of this is that he looked the part in a big way. he's also just, like I said, there are certain guys that just look a little bit different than everybody else. And when I say that they look a little bit different than everybody else, they look a little bit different than everybody else. This is the case with him. This is the kind of guy that looks like he should end up in the NFL at some point. He's got kind of that old school Southern look to him, which obviously is a good thing. That is certainly not a put down. But the running back room is always going to be good. And then we're talking about another guy, Wesley Yarbrough. Wesley Yarbrough is he's a dude that, like I said, you just kind of watch him and you're like, okay, what's that next move for you then? Can you play this year? And I don't know that he's going to play this year, but he's going to, there's going to be a role for him. And like I said, there's going to be a role for him. And I think that there is going to be a spot where he's going to be able to play, and he's going to be able to play almost immediately whenever that hits the field. That could be next year. Like I said, I don't know that there's going to necessarily be a big role for him, but he's the next one. When you look at him, he just physically looks different than the other players on the team. And guys like that at the University of Arizona, they are generally going to play. That's pretty much all that I can say to that. They are generally going to play. He's good. He's good. It's the best way I can put it, is that he is really, really good. And there's just a lot to like about his game and what he brings to the table. And again, he's also kind of in a spot as well where you're like, all right, what is that next move then for him? And I think he could be the starter next year. Now, we're going to talk about somebody you got coming in here in a second, but it's going to be a loaded running back room next year. You got a 4-star kid coming in out of Northern California as well, and he's going to be able to, tote the rock. Ishmael Mahdi moves on. Quincy Craig could still be here. But one thing that Alonzo Carter has said, and he has said from day one, is that he wants a running back room where everybody competes and there is a lot of action. There's a lot of, dexterity going on in that room. He's always wanted that, and that is a big part of what Alonzo Carter wants to do as that running backs coach. And I think that's the part that, like I said, that's the part. I think that's kind of the part where we're kind of at this stage. So we shall see. And now the other thing is, I do think that this is a team, though, that's going to be able to hang on to the running back a little bit situation a little bit more. And there's something too that I think we look at and we're like, okay, cool. What exactly is this running back room, and how is this going to fit in for the University of Arizona? Because there are some interesting aspects to this that I don't know that we're necessarily talking enough about. And I think the first thing starts with that offensive line. The offensive line is going to be huge for the U of A. Is the offensive line going to be good enough? Not only is the offensive line going to be good enough, the other thing is, where is the offensive line? Which guys can stand out? And I think that's something that we need to look at, because I don't know that anybody really knows the answer to that one, but it's a little bit more intriguing than it was at this time, 6 months ago. But first, OpenPhone, my friend, OpenPhone. Okay, check it out. All right, here's the deal with OpenPhone. This is what, if you're running a business, every missed call is call left on the table. You know that. It has money left on the table. Think about the last time you needed a service. If the person didn't answer, did you wait? No, probably not. You just moved on. That's why you need OpenPhone, so you never miss an opportunity to connect with your customers. OpenPhone is the #1 business phone system designed to streamline and scale your customer communications. Do you juggle 2 phones just to keep business and calls separate? OpenPhone solved that instantly. Your whole team can share one number, and you're going to be good to go. See what over 60,000 businesses with OpenPhone have had. They're offering Locked On listeners 20% off your first 6 months at openphone.com/lockedoncollege. That's OpenPhone.com/lockedoncollege. They'll even port over your existing numbers for free. OpenPhone, no missed calls, no missed customers. It's the #1 phone app out there, and the AI agent handles after-hour calls, answers common questions, and captures leads, so you never miss a customer again. Now, PrizePicks, everybody. PrizePicks, check it out with PrizePicks. Here's the deal with PrizePicks and what makes this so fun. This episode is brought to you today by PrizePicks, the daily fantasy platform that turns your football predictions into real rewards. Preseason is already heating up, and college football isn't far behind. Well, it's here because it's going to be here Saturday. Whether you got your eye on the big game quarterback or a breakout running back, PrizePicks makes it easier to get in the game. You can put something on Joe Burrow and Saquon Barkley. You can power that. You can parlay that. You can do a bunch of different things. Plus, you have the flex option, which is a total game changer. Even when one of your picks misses, you still doubled your money. PrizePicks puts their members first, and the withdrawals are fast, safe, and secure. Download the PrizePicks app today and use code LOCKEDONCollege to get $50 in lineups after you play your first $5 lineup. That's LOCKEDONCollege to get $50 in lineups after your first $5 play. PrizePicks, run your game. Thanks for keeping it locked on Wildcats and making this your first listen of the day. I am your host, Mike Luke. Okay, now let's talk a little bit about where we're at now when it comes to the University of Arizona and just kind of the grand scheme of all of this. The first thing that we need to talk about, though, like I said, at the running back spot is those offensive linemen. How are they going to be able to hold up? I think DeCambra, by all accounts, has been good in camp. I'll still believe it kind of when I see it on the O-line, but so far, so good. And DeCambra has been, like I said, very, very solid for the University of Arizona. We'll see if that can continue or not, but I don't know. Maybe it will continue. We shall see. But he's been really, really good. Inside, Deuce has got to continue to get into better shape. If Deuce gets into better shape, then, Arizona can get into better. Arizona's going to be better as well. Now, the thing about it is he's got to, like I said, the guys inside I think are going to be fine. It's the interior, it's the exterior, the defensive tackles, the offensive tackles that worry me in the depth there, because you got Buchanan and you got Bounds. Now, you're saying like Big Rhino, he can do a bunch of different stuff. Well, that's true. But I also don't know with Big Rhino what the deal is, though, because, again, he's big, he's fat, or he's big, he can move. But I think the thing that you also you've got to remember is that you're also kind of like at the same stage with him where you're like, okay, Rhino, do we want to just keep moving you around left and right? I don't know that you really want to do that, to be honest with you. As a matter of fact, I don't think you want to do that. I think you want to be in a spot with Rhino where you know that, okay, we're going to be able to keep you here. We're going to be able to keep you in a spot, and then we're going to be able to keep you. And I just don't know that he's the guy like a Big Jonah that's just so good that you can just move him around time and place and time again. I don't know that that's really his role. Who knows? Maybe it does turn out to be. I just don't necessarily see that. So, like I said, we shall see. But that there's that. Overall, though, the coaching staff, especially Seth Doege, seems fairly confident in the O-line, and I think that's something that you got to factor into all this, is that, how much of this with Seth Doege is how much of this here's that. The one thing about it though with Seth Doege is he's not going to lie. He knows exactly he knows exactly what he is doing, and I think he's going to be just fine. I think this offense is going to be just fine. I've come around to it. I'm going to say it now. And I think the best thing about this is you do know, though, that this is good in good hands. Last year with Dino Babers, you just knew that was not in a good situation. You knew that Dino Babers was not going to be the kind of coach that was going to allow that. This year, there's a much, much different feeling about it. And so we shall find out. But overall, though, I want to get back to CD Gay here for a second. This is a massive get for the U of A. I thought he'd be able to get in on the campus, but you never really know with these guys until they actually get in there, get their foot in the door. He's here. He's good to go. And this is going to be, like I said, it's game on for U of A basketball at this point. You've got your entire roster, and you got pretty much everything you need. You got shot blockers. You got guys that can get to the bucket. Not only do you got shot blockers and guys that can get to the bucket, you've got guys that can finish. You've just got a ton of different things that are good to go. So, got to give Tommy Lloyd a ton of credit here for what he's been able to do, because he's been able to do a lot of stuff. Now, tomorrow we're going to talk about CD Gay even more. We're going to put him on the thumbnail, break down what it means, because he could be the difference this year in, maybe competing for a national title or not competing for a national title. He could also be the difference next year in that as well, because he's a guy that He's a guy that, you watch him and you just see how he moves. And I think Arizona fans are going to be more than happy with him. But on that note, though, very much appreciate you all, making Locked On Wildcats your first listen of the day. I'm your host, Mike Luke. Bear down, back the A. Locked On Wildcats, your team every day. We'll be back with you tomorrow. TTFN, ta-ta for now.